I am Optimus Prime, leader of the Autobots. The greatest sci-fi show on Earth is about to begin.
So, Lou, we all know you as one of the coolest, most iconic comic book characters ever. And he was an inspiration to you when you were growing up, Hulk, wasn't he? With comics and reading comics.
Yes, because as a child, when I was young, I had to overcome some obstacles in my life. I had a hearing and speech issue. So I got hooked on reading comic book. I was like a real-life Walter Mitty because, as a kid, I was bullied. I was made fun of. I was very introverted. So to me, that was my escape, to read the comic books because it gave me a sense of well-being. I was like a real-life Walter Mitty with my imagination, reading about the Hulk, about different stories like Superman, because I was obsessed with power. So that whole path led me to where I am now. It's funny how it started with Stan Lee, because I had all the comic books at the beginning would say written by Stan Lee. And I didn't know if Stan Lee was real or not because I thought maybe it was just a ghost author. But unfortunately, I trade all those comic books for Muscle Magazine because if I still had those comic books, I probably could buy 5 of these buildings tomorrow. But I had the first issue of the Hulk, I had the first issue of Superman, but it brings back wonderful memories because back then I never told people I read comic books because, they would think you're weird. Like Stan Lee, when he was young, did you know about this? People would come to him, sometimes he'd go to different parties, they say, what do you do for a living? He'd say, I'm an author of comic books. People would just walk away from him. They thought he was strange and weird. They kind of like looked down upon him. But because he loved comics, because of his passion, look how far he's come. That's why it's important to embrace your passion. That's why my passion when I was young, my passion was about power. That's why from that point on, I got involved in bodybuilding, became a champion, changed my whole life, and I'm glad I embraced my passion.
I can't believe you traded them in for Muscle Magazine. So Lou, your big break comes when you do a film about bodybuilding with a certain Mr. Schwarzenegger, and you're training for, was it Mr. Olympia?
Yeah, Mr. Olympia, 1975.
What was that experience like? Because Arnold seemed a bit of a tease.
Well, Arnold back then was a current champion. So I won the Mr. Universe, and I was training for the Mr. Olympia because I wanted to, it was my idol. So of course you wanted to feature idol. But the interesting thing is we filmed and we flew to South Africa. And when you're training for competition, you're dieting, you're eating like fish and water and fruit, and we can't eat all this fancy food. So a week before the competition, we arrived in South Africa, pretty intense. But I was very glad to be part of the film, even though I wasn't in my best shape because it changed history. Now they play Pumping Iron over and over because it was a great docudrama about bodybuilding, about life. Because back then, when I did the documentary with Arnold, the public didn't know anything about bodybuilding because we were like freaks back then. But still, once again, we love bodybuilding, we love what we did, and somebody told me 45 years ago, they said, listen, you're gonna end up going to law enforcement, Arnold, you're gonna end up going to the movie business and be a governor. People will laugh, but look how far we've come from that film because 1975, how much it's grown. Like I said again, because it's a passion, we just love it so much. Because a lot of people say to me, why don't you play pro football? Why are you wasting your time being a bodybuilder? Because at the time, first prize was only $750. That was my full bill for like 2.5 weeks. But yeah, wow. Back then. I mean now it's probably a lot more, especially eating in the restaurant every night. But it was a great experience.
Who here's seen Pumping Iron? People seen it, yeah? Because I watched it for the first time just before Scotland, and you came across so well, and you scared me then with the amount of muscle that you've got. I mean, when you guys are training, how much could you actually bench press?
Well, back then I used to bench press 560. And I was in the first strongest man competition. When you're training for a bodybuilder competition, you have to be strong because you have to lift heavy weights to build large muscle. So the more the resistance, the bigger the muscle is. So I've been working on now for 55 years. Would you believe that? I've been working out for 55 years. But I still train every day now because I'm still passionate about it. But it's important that every one of you get engaged in some kind of exercise or something because you only here once. Take care of your body. But luckily me, I mean, that's why I look good for my age. I meet a lot of people younger than me, they look older because they smoke too much, they drink too much. And it's important because, you know, when you smoke a lot of cigarettes, it ages your face, your skin and everything. So that's what it's important to have good hygiene and take care of yourself.
He very much takes care of himself. You still work out twice a day? Is it twice a day that you're working out?
No,
When
one.
you work out a day?
No, I train one. I train 6 to 7 days a week. I do 30 minutes of cardio and about 40 minutes of training, weight training, machine, dumbbells and barbell. Don't get me wrong. Some days I don't want to train. I just make myself to do it. It's just a daily habit. Just make yourself do it.
So when you've done pumping iron and everybody starts to really see you as you kind of like the boy next door and everybody really started to like you, is that how you kind of how did the Hulk come about when you got that?
Well, what happened though, I was training for the 1977 Mr. Olympia competition, and at the time, they were shooting the pilot of the Hulk with another actor named Richard Kiel. Richard Kiel, the tall guy, 7'2", he played George and James Bond. So one day, the director came on the set with his son. The boy said to his father, "Dad, this is not the Hulk. He's not big and muscular like the comic books." They realized they had a problem. So they did a nationwide casting call to find the biggest bodybuilder they could find. And of course, my phone rang. I answered the phone. They said, "We have a casting call for the Hulk." And I said, "Wow, this is great, but I'm training for the Mr. Olympia in 1977. I've always wanted to win the Mr. Olympia." So I went down for the screen test. I walk in. They said, "Okay, we're going to paint you green." I said, "What?" I tried to make up excuses. I had a plane to cast, but I said I wanted to win this part. So they gave me a small fee, and I got made up. I got in front of the camera. I went through all the emotion. Then I went home. The phone rings again. The executive producer said, "Come back to the set. I need to speak to you." So I go over the hill. It's in the valley. And he takes me in the motorhome. He goes, "Could you show me the emotion about," like, it's called like pantomime. That means acting without speaking. And I was scared because I never acted in my life before, so I gave my best shot. The next day, we're filming, and the rest is history. And the Hulk was born.
And the Hulk was born. I don't know about all of you, but there is nobody else in this world that I can imagine who could terrify so many children and adults painted green like this chap, and then be such a nice guy when he's not painted green. You are the Hulk. No questions about it.
But the amazing thing is that I had to endure the makeup. At the beginning, the makeup would take like 3 to 4 hours to apply. I'll be the first one on the set, and sometimes I would film 12 to 14 hours a day, and then the makeup would take like an hour and a half to take off. But I had to constantly be retouched all day. But it was interesting, when you look in the mirror, the character was beautiful. And it was hard for me to be in the makeup because I couldn't socialize with the crew. I had to stay by myself in the motorhome with the air conditioning blowing on me, almost keeping myself refrigerated because of my body temperature. So it's 5 years of grueling experience, but it taught me a lot as an actor.
I know that you've mentioned this before, and I'm hoping a lot of people here haven't heard about it. There's a few stories that you do tell people about when you finished filming and maybe you didn't want to take your makeup off and what happened, if you'd like to share that now.
Well, what happened, I finished filming at like 2 in the morning. And I told the makeup man, I said, "Listen, I'm driving home, don't take the makeup, leave the makeup on, it's dark outside, I'm just gonna drive home." So anyway, I leave, I get in my truck, I'm driving home, I'm on the freeway. As I'm driving, I see a bus pass me, and there's the SUV next to me, and the guy driving goes like this, "Holy shit, it's the Incredible Hulk, oh my God!" And he smashes SUV right into the bus. And I'm driving, I'm saying to myself, how do I explain this? I said, "God, let me get home." I just had to get home because if I got pulled over, how I explained this, I felt so bad because the guy literally smashed his SUV, crashed into a bus. I don't know if he's dead or not, but at least I made it home. I've never done that again. I wouldn't suggest anybody to try it.
You'd just love to see the guy's face, wouldn't you? So Lou, I mean, with the Incredible Hulk and then your future career that was carrying on, I mean, you do so many interesting things. You're a motivational speaker. You're in the Reserve Sheriffs in America. How did all that come about?
Being a sheriff, well, my father was the NYPD lieutenant. So I've always been fascinated with law enforcement. So about 15 years ago, I was at a party. I was talking to the sheriff of LA, and I told him how much I like law enforcement. He goes, "Why don't you go through the academy?" And I said, "That's interesting." So I took 6 months off, went through the academy. I had my living room table have textbook piled up because every day I had to study, had to take a lot of different exams. I had to do all the shooting and the driving. So after about 6 months, I became a certified deputy sheriff. And I do a lot of search and rescue, and being a police officer was a great experience because it changed my life. But all these dreams I've had as a kid came true because I've always wanted to be a police officer. But it was a tough experience to go through 6 months of training because it's like going back to school to re-educate yourself. And it's interesting because I do a lot of work with Homeland Security, and especially now, part of me, I like to give back.
That is awesome that you're doing that. And what I think would really work, I don't know if anybody else thinks this, but if they painted you green and then put you out on the street, you know when like really bad things are happening? Like if there's a riot or something, I reckon that he could just clear it out like that. Anybody else reckon? Can you just imagine somebody's face if you were actually the Hulk in a burst out police suit? But no, so on a serious note, like...
Do you want to do any question from
Yeah,
the audience?
we're going to go out to them now. But on a serious note, like, he's such an inspiration, this guy, this motivational speaking that he does. And it's been an absolute pleasure to meet you 3 times this year, let alone once. I'm sure that other people have got some questions, so would anybody else like to ask any questions?
Yeah, if you could stand up and to speak loudly and slowly. She'll repeat it.
Can you hear me? Yeah. I'm just interested because I read a while back that you trained Michael Jackson. You trained him some gym moves. Is that true? And what was that experience like? And what did you train him? What did you do with him?
Repeat the question on the microphone.
He just said he read recently that you trained with Michael Jackson, and what was that experience like?
Well, Michael Jackson, I trained him on and off for 20 years. We kept it a secret because he wanted his privacy. Michael's fantastic, and he's a genuine human being. But it was interesting because he can't train in a normal gym because the way he looks, and especially he's probably at the time, still today, the most recognized person on the planet. So he would come to my house, my facility, 10 o'clock at night, and I would train him for a couple of hours, you know, light stuff like the band and the waves. He needed that supervision. But what's interesting is that I worship his passion for music, and he loved my passion for fitness. We became good friends. So Michael trusts me. So he would be with me together, and I want anything from him. So we were like good friends. But it was an interesting experience because a man of his caliber, especially the way he moved, the way he dances, and he was a brilliant guy. And what he's done with himself, he made himself probably the one most famous icon on the planet. So when he passed on, I mean, pretty sad for me because I lost a good friend. But it was a great experience because I was going to go on the tour with him, the second one, because he was planning to come here in the UK, and I think it was going to be the bigger comeback in history. And at the time, he was in debt, $430 million. He was in debt. So he had to do the tour. But it was a great experience. Michael was great. And all the negativity about him is not true because he was great with children. And he's not what you think he was because behind closed doors, he was a very sweet, genuine human being.
Any more questions?
Hi Lou, hope you're well. I read online that after the death of the Incredible Hulk, the movie, there was a rumor that there was going to be a sequel to that called The Revenge of the Incredible Hulk. Is that true? And if it is, can you give any details of what it would have been about?
Where the Revenge of the Incredible Hulk, that they were saying there was rumors to make it. Have I heard you
Yeah,
right
so
there? Yeah.
the death of the Incredible Hulk was the last film that Lou was in, and then after that was a planned sequel called The Revenge of the Hulk.
They planned a sequel. So, do you know anything about that? Was there any truth?
Well,
Can you tell us
the
anything?
last film I did was Bill Bixby, The Death of the Hulk. And we were going to come back with another movie that we called The Revenge of the Hulk, where they find one blood cell, they bring him back to life. But unfortunately, he got ill and he passed on. But I didn't like that title, The Death of the Hulk. I felt like I put a jinx on one of us. But we were almost at the point that the next episode, the next movie of the week of the Hulk had David Banner's brain, where he's almost having a conversation. We were going to do like a new, to the next level. But Bill passed on, so that's why I ended up going into limbo until eventually they came back with the CGI.
Hi there. Sorry. Best advice for putting on muscle mass?
Best advice for putting on muscle mass.
Best advice? Muscle mass? Well, to make it very simple for you, there's 3 secrets. Eat good. Eat good, train good, and sleep good. To put on muscle mass, you have to literally work at it. You have to actually eat 3 or 4 times a day, a good protein diet, carbohydrates and fat, and also train body parts like twice a week, not once a week. I would say no more than 1 hour, but rest 1 minute between sets. But that's the best way to put on muscle mass, density, and size. Repetition 8 to 10, no more than 10 sets of body part. Got it? Next time I see you, your arm will be about 3 inches bigger.
Hi, Lou. I saw an interview with Arnold where he said that he liked to get into the head of his competitors when he was doing the Mr. Universe competitions and everything. I was wondering what you thought the balance between, was it just training and talent, or was there a lot of psychological side of things to the competitions as well?
When Arnold was doing the competitions, was there a psychological element to what he was doing, or was it like just purely the training? Yeah. Yeah. I was trying to remember how you'd phrase that. Arnold said that he liked to get into the head of people. So how much, when we were watching the film, how much of that is actually true, what he was like? And
you mean Arnold playing the head trip? Now it's me, because I only trained like nine weeks for the competition, because I was training for the superstars. I was not in my best shape. So Arnold knew that it was going to be an easy victory for him. But the thing is that he has the ability, he knows how to psych out people, because he's a great manipulator. And he admitted that too. But for me, it was a different situation, because I was not having a good relationship with my father. At the same time, filming, so it was kind of tough for me. But I knew that I was hoping to come second place, because I wasn't in my best shape. But the good thing about it, I knew the film could take us to the next level, could give us a lot of publicity, because that's the reason why I did the film. And it was a lot of fun making the film, even though that the competition, of course, everybody wants to win. But it comes down to, it didn't matter who won. It was about being in the film, it's about the personality, and it's about being heroic in the film.
Hi, you say you grew up reading the comics of the Hulk, and how it's progressed from you doing it and then on, and now it is with the Avengers. What's your opinion on how the Hulk as a character has evolved?
when you were reading the comics with the Hulk when you were younger, and then when you were actually the Hulk, and now with the Avengers, the way the Hulk has evolved, the look, what do you think of that look?
For the comic?
Yeah, from the original that you read, right the way through, what do you think?
Well, I mean, for the original, I would say the series, more of the original. The only thing about the series, the fact we didn't have the Hulk, for example, jumping or flying in the air. We try to keep it very simple, but I know the magazine, the comic books evolutionized over the years. I never really kept up with the comic, to answer your question. But the series, we wanted to keep it very organic, very authentic, and we don't want to have anything to do with aliens, anything to do with excessive violence, blood, or sex, stuff like that, to keep it very simple, because the whole idea with the series is every episode to deliver a laser compelling message about life. That was the whole key. And Bill Bixby at the time fought because we want to go the direction where it becomes like a Star Trek kind of a Hulk. Because easily you could go in that direction, but it's important to keep the quality and the storyline. That's why the show went on for 5 years, because it appealed to everyone.
Hi Lou, hope you're well. I know you're iconic as the Hulk, and you said earlier about Superman being an inspiration. Is there any other character that you would like to have played in any kind of movie?
Yeah, you know, it's funny, I've done over 40 films, I've done 5 TV series since I've filmed the Hulk. I would say a different character, probably a superhero, older kind of a version, like a Liberator kind of a character, because to bring age to the character. That's something I like to do, because as a kid I used to worship Hercules, and I ended up playing Hercules. And then I did the TV series called Con Man with Alan Tudyk, and I also did other series. But I would say more of a heroic character today would bring more age to it, but not green makeup, of course. No more green makeup.